Hey everyone, this is Isaac
And this is Jackie
from Nonessential Media, and you are listening to the Beach City CROWS podcast. This podcast is all about our favorite cartoons, mine being Steven Universe.
and mine being Haikyuu.
Just a warning, this episode will feature spoilers for Steven Universe through episode 8.
And spoilers for Haikyuu through episode 4.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy.
Wait, who's doing the introduction for this episode?
You.
Oh, I always have to
I don't know
introduce
how to
myself.
introduce.
Guys, welcome to the very first episode of Beach City CROWS, where we are going to talk about some animation. One of the two people on this podcast, my name is Jackie, and with me every episode.
Isaac Smith.
Why did you cringe after you said your own name?
Why did I feel the need to say my last name? I don't know.
Do you want to delete that?
Yeah. No, let's leave it in.
Okay, thanks.
It's going in. Send it.
Hashtag StruggleCast. Anyways, this is the first episode, so just a rundown of how this goes. What are we doing here?
We are talking about two of our favorite shows. Mine, personally, being Steven Universe, and Jackie's being...
Haikyuu. And the way this works is, no, I'm not going to talk about Haikyuu. Isaac is going to talk about Haikyuu.
about Haikyuu.
And I am going to watch Steven Universe. So, fun fact about this. These are two shows that if we hadn't sat down to do this podcast, I don't think either one of us would have watched seriously.
Yes, agreed.
Definitely different tastes that we have in animation.
Yes.
But we both love animation. So, before we even get started on this, breakdown of how this podcast is going to work. Obviously, we're going to talk about these two shows. So, for each episode, Isaac is going to sit down and he watches 4 episodes of Haikyuu, and I watch 8 episodes of Steven Universe. And then we're just going to kind of talk about how we feel about what we're watching, our first impressions as we go through this. We are huge fans of animation. We have taken some notes, although I think we're going to go off these notes at some point.
Do you want to talk about Steven Universe later? Because I feel like Haikyuu is more of like a in-depth. Steven Universe is more of like a fun...
Yeah, and I think that's going to change at some point, and that's as I get further into Steven Universe. But yeah, Haikyuu definitely starts off with
some very deep stuff.
Yeah. So before we get into any of that, why Steven Universe? What attracted you to Steven Universe?
This happens it would happen when I was a kid. Every time I saw a new show on Cartoon Network, I'm like, oh, this is dumb. I'm never going to watch this. Why would anyone watch this? Fast forward to a year after it's released on Cartoon Network, I watched a marathon that's on, kind of like you got into it a little bit, and I'm like, you know what, I'll give this like more of a chance, and I started to watch it, and I loved the art style, the backgrounds, the fact that they're gems. I know it sounds cringy, but I just love gems for whatever reason. But yeah, that's pretty much how I got into it. And then the fandom, I'm really into like conspiracy theories, so, and the fandom was like all for theorizing what's gonna happen next, can't wait for next week's episode, stuff like that. So, yep.
That's exciting stuff. It's funny because I was about a year late getting into Haikyuu also. I used to watch a lot of anime, but I fell out of it. Just hard to find something that appeals to me, a very specific taste, as you know. And but I do like sports, and I just remember seeing promotional art for Haikyuu and thinking this, like, it looks aesthetically pleasing to me.
It does.
Detail in places that a lot of anime doesn't have details. Mm-hmm. So I sat down, and this was before it was dubbed. By the way, we are discussing the dub version. If you don't like it, then I'm sorry, but we like the dub. We think Sentai did a phenomenal job with it. It's one of the best dubs I've ever heard in terms of localization and voice acting talent. Just getting that out of the way now. If you are watching along with us and you watch the sub, that's fine too. That's how I started, was watching the sub. And at first it was just something to pass the time. And then before I realized I was watching a great show, it was like a certain incident happened, which we'll get there at some point. I don't want to spoil what it is. And I was on the edge of my seat, and when it was over, I sat back, and it was like I was exhausted. Like I'd watched a real volleyball game happen. Like you were in it. Yeah, and that was when I realized I was watching something truly phenomenal, in my opinion. And now here we are, quite a few years later, of course, and to me, it's one of the greatest shows that I've ever watched. So that's kind of obviously, like, if I was younger, I probably would have been into Steven Universe, but it came out at a time when I was, you know, I think I was in my mid-20s.
I think so too, because it came out in like 2013.
Yeah, so I would have been in my mid-20s, early to mid-20s. So it was just a little bit past that time for me.
And I think I was, how old would I have been? Like 15?
So it's actually a pretty good age for you to get into that, I think.
I would have been like 14.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you would have.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow. That was a little bit ago.
Yeah.
When did Haikyuu come out?
Well, I believe the manga started in 2011.
Wow.
And the anime, God, I'm going to get ripped to shreds if I get this wrong, was 2014. 2014 or 2015.
Okay, so like roughly the same time.
It was around the same time, yeah. And what's really cool about this too is both these shows, even though me and you have such different tastes typically, do kind of appeal to the same demographic in a way.
In a way, yes.
Yeah. Slightly different, but I mean more or less. And that's a cool thing if you're listening to this. You're obviously old enough to watch these shows, so you're old enough to listen to the podcast. Like, that's the cool thing about it. You know? And both shows too. This is one thing that I appreciate about both shows is their target demographic was a certain one, but it really appeals to people from all walks of life,
which is very hard to do.
It is, but somehow both shows knock it out of the park. So you wanted to start with Haikyuu. Give me a second to get my drink.
Wait. I kind of want to start with...
You want to start with Steven Universe?
Yeah, just so we can get it out of the way, because I kind of want to go into more deep things with Haikyuu.
Cool. I'm fine with that.
And the themes.
So, I guess I'll start with Steven Universe. So what did I know about Steven Universe going into it? I didn't know anything. I knew you liked it. I knew that it was very popular amongst the LGBT community. Clearly for all the right reasons from what I've seen so far in these first eight episodes. And I knew that it was like every time I turned around there was fan art of some kind coming out, and so that was really about all I knew. I'm not gonna lie, I was very biased going into it because the art style was that quote unquote Cal Arts, you know, and
yeah, very.
But I have to step back and remember that this show kind of was the first one to really blow up with that. Right. And as it turns out, my first impression of the art was wrong anyways, as we'll talk about. But I sat down and I watched this show, and very, very first impression is, what the hell is going on?
Honestly?
It just kind of it's typical Saturday morning cartoon flair. It just throws you into the middle of it. Yep. I don't know. I'm like, what? There's these crystal gems is what they're called. Yeah. And I didn't know what they were or who they were. And I guess part of the joy of Steven Universe is that you learn about everything.
Yeah, it's almost like a learning experience, although I wish they would have gone into it sooner.
I mean, I can say in the first 8 episodes, I still don't know what's going on. But as we've talked about before, part of that is, you know, they didn't know if they were going to have the time to explore.
Right, not every show, when they sign a contract, they don't always know how far it's going to go. So they're not like instantly, oh, let's make a story, like a huge story out of this. Because you never know if it could just be taken down.
Yeah, and fortunately for Steven Universe, it has had the opportunity to just grow and became truly a cultural phenomenon in its own way. So I guess my first impression when I started the first episode was it felt very, very video game inspired.
Yes. Which I love, by the way.
I know, I liked it too. It took me back to, I'm a big Final Fantasy fan.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and RPGs, we talked about this.
Yeah, we talked about this before we started the podcast. It has that RPG feel, which I love. Yes. I think that's so cool. And then from the art style perspective, we've had the opportunity to talk about this before we started the podcast, but I mean, both of us love the art style, especially backgrounds.
Yes. Oh my god.
Very artsy.
Cream worthy.
Dude, no joke. No joke. I love the background. I love it. It really kind of sets the mood in a way.
It does.
Which is, you know, and I hate when shows have either like too simple or, but by that I mean like very basic shapes and stuff, or too detailed. This is like its own unique style of backgrounds.
Yeah, it's a lot of times I find cartoons that have simple backgrounds want you to focus on the character. It's like they don't care. They want you to focus on the character, but they also want you to focus on the background, you know? Yeah. All the exposition that comes with it. Because it's not just about the characters, it's about their surroundings and everything. It's almost like You're telling someone's story.
Yeah, and that background is a part of that universe, no pun intended. Like, and there was one funny sign on, I don't remember what episode it was, I have it written down somewhere. Episode 7, there was a sign in the background for a hot dog stand that said a wiener in hand. Clever, 10 out of 10.
Okay, just wait till you get to it.
Yeah, he said some other things that I'm kind of looking forward to make some jokes about, but... those I could go on and on about the backgrounds. I love them, and I think that the further we get and the more they explore, because that's one thing that I've liked about Steven Universe is it's obviously where we get the name of the podcast, Beach City, is sort of his hometown, but it's not confined to that place.
Right.
We've had it seems like every episode we're exploring a new world, which is really cool, which I haven't quite figured out how all this works. Mm-hmm. But that was, which maybe you can explain that a little bit. So explain these like worlds, or that's
it's not necessarily worlds yet. It's mainly just structures that have been on Earth for like thousands of years since. I can't really say much because it will get into it. But basically, these structures are there for a reason because of gems.
So there's some foreshadowing,
right?
Which we saw some foreshadowing in one of the structures, which was
my gosh, yeah,
episode 8, which was the last episode we watched.
It literally tells you.
Yeah, there's
what's going to happen, but nobody knows.
There's a mural on the wall, and you pointed it out. You're like, you didn't really spoil anything, but you were like, hey, this is big.
This is big.
Like, look at this. Yeah. And it's definitely really cool that at episode 8, which is the equivalent of 4 episodes in Haikyuu, that early in, there's this immense foreshadowing for something that I feel like isn't going to be talked about for like 100 episodes from now.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a ways out there. The action in the first episode, it happened right away. Mm-hmm. Like, there was no waiting around. It was within the first, 2 or 3 minutes, which I loved because I like that right away.
It hooks you.
Yeah, because you're like, whoa, dude, this is going to be fun. This is going to be fast-paced. And I'm a huge fan of more or less choreography for animated fight scenes, and I think they did a really good job with it, kind of showcasing. They didn't go in depth, but they sort of showcased who these gems were and their powers,
their roles in the whole family.
Yeah, exactly. And so Steven, in this first episode, Steven's gem is activated by food.
Okay, first of all, if I was a gem, me too.
So far, Steven relatable, yes. Is that something? I mean, you can't spoil too much, but is that something that I should expect to see more of, or does he kind of learn to control this?
Yes and no.
Okay, so
food, yes. Control, yes. Do they coincide? Not necessarily.
Okay.
In the future episodes.
Okay, that's something to look forward to then. By the second episode, I had decided that I did not like Pearl.
Me too.
I'm hoping this changes. That was the first character that I had an impression of, because with the episodes being shorter, they're only 11 minutes, and it's a typical quote-unquote Saturday morning cartoon, fun, action-packed.
She is take the life out of this show.
Just kinda. It's it kind of matches her color palette.
Yeah, that's
true. In a way.
Yeah,
it's very kind of
mute.
And
very desaturated.
Yes, yeah. The second episode is where I also first noticed something about the art, is that it had these kind of comic booky thick lines, which I liked, and it was very punk rock. I don't know how else to explain it, but there's something about it that's kind of a little edgy, and I don't mean edgy in a dark way, but
like a cringy.
Not in a cringy way, but in a very unique way. So, and of course by this point I'm starting to understand that Steven is also a gem or is half gem, which is very confusing, which I know it's going to expand on at some point. It has to.
Right. Well, we know he has a dad who is a human.
Yeah, his family situation by the second episode, I was interested in that. Yeah, I was very interested in his family situation, because I think that's when they reveal that his mom was Rose Quartz, who is clearly someone that means a lot to these other gems. And then another thing about that they said, I believe this is more or less a quote, that his mom had gave up her physical form to give birth to Steven.
Yes.
So obviously Steven is going to have some mommy issues.
Oh my gosh. You literally summed up probably most of the show.
So I should be prepared for some mommy issues.
Dark themes.
Some dark themes. Which you wouldn't expect that when you first start the show.
Yeah. You're like, oh, this is a fun show. Not really.
And then
it's
suddenly
get dark.
It's super heavy later on. one question I had, and I don't know if this ever really... It didn't get answered in the first 8 episodes. Mm-hmm. Does everyone know about Steven and these gems? Or is this like are they the Justice League? Or is it something that they try to keep quiet?
So I'll try to say it without spoiling too much. But basically, gems have been on Earth for a long time.
Okay.
Now, I think it's around the same time that humans, quote unquote, were created. I guess you could say that. I forgot kind of actually, but I just know that
there's a lot to Steven Universe and it's been going for a long time. So
right.
Remembering every detail would be hard.
Yes. So pretty much the gems have been there for a long time. So they're already acquainted with humans. Humans are already acquainted with gems. So they kind of work together because they're both intelligent life forms.
Got it. So they know, like, humans know gems exist and vice versa.
Right.
Okay.
The gems, though, I don't think really... I think they kind of step back a little bit, specifically on Earth.
Okay.
For humans to kind of do their own thing.
Got it.
Because I think they wanted to make it more like our Earth. Very, people wanting to explore
okay,
space.
yeah.
Humans, stuff like that.
That makes sense. Burger backpack, I need it. I need the burger backpack. I need it. I think we talked about earlier for this podcast a giveaway maybe being a burger backpack packed with some goodies. So, which I'm going to win for myself. No, I don't think that's how giveaways work, but I'll give it to myself. 4th episode, I kind of got an idea of I felt like I had a basic idea of who these characters are. So Amethyst.
Amethyst. She is a cyst.
Amethyst. That's all. That's going to be from now on. Amethyst. Rebel, Pearl, did not like her. She's very like Mother Hen. Almost, it felt like.
It's not that I don't like her. I just don't like her archetype.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah, and I'm hoping that changes. Because
she wants the best for Steven, but the way she goes about it, it's very too motherly, like a helicopter mom.
And then Garnet, we talked about this in the first 8 episodes, ends up being my favorite out of the gems. At first, I thought she was maybe detached, but I'm realizing that's not really what it is. It's more of like a level-headed calmness that the other two don't really have.
Yeah, she's definitely the most stable.
Yeah, and so I'm really excited to kind of learn more about her. She's also very powerful.
Yeah. Very,
very powerful.
I think that has a lot to do with her stableness, and it'll also go into it in future episodes with how their stability works within their fusions.
Okay. See, that's the thing I'm excited about with Steven Universe is I know there's a lot of world building. I know there's a lot of lore, and we've talked about that, how cool that is for us as creative people. FYI, both of us are creative people. And that to us is very fascinating. It's so difficult to go in and create something that interesting. And if you can get me interested in it, you're doing a great job. And I definitely am looking forward to learning more about the backstory and the gems and how all that works. One thing that was surprising to me is how kind of morbid this show can be. I mean, we had cat fingers. There was like an episode where ketchup almost acted as blood in episode 5. And so there is, because it's rated TV PG, which I thought was a little high the first time I started watching it.
But now you're like,
Now I'm like, okay, I get that there's like a sense of humor and a sense of understanding that people older would get, and so it helps me understand the appeal that it has with so many different people. Another character we're introduced to, they introduce a lot of characters in the first day.
They really do, surprisingly. I didn't think it was that fast, but
Connie, you told me, is pretty important to the show.
Yeah,
she's first introduced in episode 7, where her and Steven, so Steven's can't, obviously from what I can understand, can't control his gym. Like he hasn't learned how to gym his gym.
He definitely has not been to the gym.
No, he hasn't. Lots of body positivity in Steven Universe.
Yes.
Lots of which is cool. I mean, I mean, if you're Steven's body type, then you have that character that he saves the universe. Seems to be. I'm assuming it ends up being the end result, because why would you not have him save the universe? Literally, it wouldn't make any sense. But he obviously can't control it. So in this episode 7, where Connie first appears, they get trapped in a bubble that he created trying to save her. That's cute, I guess. Except for, as we were watching this episode, I kept asking, how have they not suffocated? And I thought maybe there was like air holes, but then they ended up in the bottom of the ocean. So. And
then Connie's like, "Oh, how have we not suffocated yet?" You're like, "Ding, ding, ding, ding."
For real, how have we not suffocated? But almost immediately with Connie, we start to get into what her character's about. So she's very emotional. She says she has no friends.
Very sheltered.
Very sheltered, yeah. And she made a comment that her dad works at all the different beaches, so they move around a lot. So I think if you're a kid watching this, or even an adult maybe that's been through this, and you haven't been able to create those friendships and relationships.
Because you're always on the go.
Yeah, you very quickly have someone that you can relate to in this show.
And it becomes even more apparent when you figure out more about her mom.
Interesting. See, there's a lot of mommy issues in this.
There is a lot of parental issues, which I'm like,
Huh.
Which surprisingly, I think we need in cartoons, because there's not really any cartoons, now that I think about it, that share those issues. You know?
I think the only cartoon that I have ever seen that, and people are going to get mad at me for saying cartoon instead of anime, but whatever, that shared that is one of my favorites is Digimon. The first season of Digimon really hit home when it didn't matter what background you had from, if it was a divorced, or if you were adopted, or if you had overbearing parents or parents that didn't pay attention to you. Like, it didn't matter. Someone had been through that in that show. So as a kid watching it, there was a character there that you could relate to. And you don't really see that. And I think you're right. I think Steven Universe is the first time in a while, maybe ever, where I've seen a cartoon that clearly you can tell from the beginning of the show. Even Steven's relationship with his dad, who it's almost like his dad is a big kid.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
It's like he didn't really want to be a dad.
Yeah, he didn't. And he wants to just keep being carefree. And it almost makes me wonder, because from what I can gather from these episodes, does he even live with his dad?
He does. His dad owns a car wash.
I remember that. And he has like a van by the beach.
Right. So they live pretty close by.
But he's... Oh, how old is Steven? That was another thing I wasn't sure. Like,
I think in the first season... don't fact check me. I'm going to get this wrong. I know I am. I think he's 12 or 13.
So he's pretty young.
He's pretty young.
And he's kind of living... I mean, he has the gems with him, who are, in a way, his parental figures. Mm-hmm. But... Which is cool, because that's also bringing in a family dynamic that's not explored in cartoons. It's... Right. I mean... As far as I understand, the gems are essentially genderless, but identify as female or use female pronoun. This is the thing.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have that, and then you also you more or less have three parents, even if that relationship that those three gems have isn't necessarily like a poly relationship. But still, I think there's kids out there that are growing up in that kind of a household now. And you
also have Amethyst, who acts as like his sibling.
Yeah, for real. I mean, there's one of the things that you can kind of gather very quickly is the maturity level of those three, for lack of a better term, of those three gems. And there is kind of a hierarchy there, you know. And
again, it will be addressed in future episodes, but it's pretty much due to their age.
Oh, so that's another thing. So gems actually age.
Yes.
In a way. Like they can't die of old age, I'm guessing.
No.
Okay.
And they also don't have to eat, but Amethyst chooses to. So that's another character development thing that's like...
See, I didn't know that. See, I feel like there's so much to learn with the gems, which is cool. Obviously,
it's like a whole other species.
Yeah, clearly is. Steven doesn't seem to really... He's not dumb, but... I don't know how to say this, but he's not smart.
Say it.
He's dumb. Is Steven dumb? Like, that's... Like, I don't know if he's... I think he's meant to be a typical kid. I think he's like, this is you as a 13-year-old.
Yeah, think of you at that age.
Oh, I was dumb.
Yeah, I was borderline brain dead. I don't know how I made it, but...
No one does. No one knows how they made it this far.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to show that he's, a regular preteen, curious, gets in everything, doesn't know what he's doing.
Doesn't afraid of danger. Like, he doesn't realize what danger is, which is, I mean, I know as a kid I did a lot of dumb stuff because I didn't understand the consequences that lay beyond if something went wrong.
Yeah.
Which was kind of addressed in episode 8. Like, he had this bravado as they went into this temple with I think it was a temple anyways. Whatever it was, this RPG map that they went to.
Pretty much.
He thought he was going to be brave and fearless, but then looking death in the face, because that show does, like, he's put in these situations
every single episode.
Yeah. And I mean, there's, like, I've always talked about what I want from a show is a sense of danger. Mm-hmm. And the show has it in as much as I could expect from it, because I
Right.
still expect Steven to survive to the end, because if he didn't, this would be a totally different show.
That is one thing I want to preface this with, is it definitely is your average cartoon, but it goes into some crazy like boundaries, themes way later on in the show.
See, I'm looking forward to getting to that, and I've kind of heard a little bit about it, and I've seen a lot of, like I said, I've seen a lot of different things around Steven Universe, so I know there's a reason why this has the following that it has, and I'm hoping to join the horde.
The horde.
The horde. The Steven horde. Yeah, I think both of us have agreed, just to kind of wrap it up, we both agree we love the art style.
Yes.
We love the music.
Love it.
The backgrounds are like nothing we've ever seen. Animation, it's early episodes, but it's not bad.
It's not bad.
It's in the fight scenes are fun.
Yeah.
And they have that sense of danger.
I think they did very well with what they had. I guess.
And it was kind of the first. I mean, it wasn't the first show of its kind, because Adventure Time, which I believe the creator of Steven Universe actually worked on Adventure Time.
She worked on it, but like as far as a whole entire production, like this, I think this is probably her first go.
Wow, yeah, it's very unique so far.
Yeah.
I mean, you've talked about this, and just to kind of wrap up Steven Universe, if we weren't doing this podcast, would I keep watching, having seen just the first 8 episodes?
Probably not.
I probably wouldn't, not because it's bad, but because it still hasn't fit into my taste. But the whole reason we're doing this is to prove that just because you think you're not going to like it, because let me tell you about getting Isaac to watch Haikyuu.
Oh my god.
We were going to do this podcast like 2 years ago, whenever it was that. 3 years ago was when season 3 ended of Haikyuu, so it must have been like 2 years ago.
This has been a long time.
It's been a long time coming, and he just didn't. He's no, I'm not gonna like it. It's a volleyball anime. I'm not gonna like it.
But then I expected you to like Steven Universe, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those things where
I think I just had to mature a little bit more.
You just got to give it. Well, yeah, you were pretty young. You were pretty young when Steven Universe and Haikyuu were airing, but. Yeah, that's kind of to wrap up Steven Universe. That's my thoughts. I mean, like, I'm not saying I wouldn't continue it. Obviously I'm going to. There's things that I'm curious about. The biggest flaw that it has is that we don't understand that there's a lore yet. And that's not the fault of the writers. That's because the production that they were given, the timeline that they had. And
I think it kind of is, because even in episode 8, when we see that mural.
Yeah, they clearly were foreshadowing something.
They were foreshadowing it, but then it kind of goes back into that they didn't really know if they're gonna have a budget or the go ahead.
Yeah, so it just makes it difficult for me to go, to wonder if it goes anywhere ever, which I know it does, obviously, but
Yeah.
if I didn't have that information,
it is just very hard to like stick with it,
Yeah.
in the beginning. I think that's why I stuck with it, because it was just always on Cartoon Network. So I was like, you know what, I've seen all these episodes so far just because I've turned on the channel, why don't I go ahead and pursue other episodes? And then that's when it started to get very good.
Which is funny because you're about to talk about Haikyuu, and we both talked about how the first 4 episodes of Haikyuu aren't exactly attention grabbing. So if you want to talk Haikyuu, I guess we can move into, unless you have more to add about Steven Universe that I might have missed.
The only thing else I would add is the pacing, which we kind of talked about already like twice. Yeah, 30 plus episodes, like 25 episodes
Before anything serious
happens. Not my cup of tea, but it gets better, so.
I mean, obviously, otherwise you wouldn't be a fan of it, so.
Right.
Oh, voice acting. I just want to say voice.
Oh, yeah.
I love the voice acting for Steven Universe.
See, that's the thing. Pearl's voice actress.
Oh, it fits.
My favorite voice actress.
Phenomenal.
Out of the whole show.
I mean, I couldn't argue with that.
But her archetype, trash.
I'm hoping my opinion on her changes. Please don't hate me if you love her. I haven't. It's only been 8 episodes, guys.
It just takes so long. She's like one of the last people we get any information on, and
okay.
that's the first person everyone wants information on because she is so. Uptight.
Well, you can tell there's something more beneath the surface. You can tell. There's
a reason why she is so protective of Steven.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Anyways, back to Haikyuu, which we were gonna start. So. My initial reaction with Haikyuu, animation, phenomenal.
I love the animation for Haikyuu.
Now, it's not, the art style isn't necessarily groundbreaking, but it's that way because they can do all this type of animation, like swings, hits, all this other stuff. And then they do like really cool close-ups. I just like any show that does that. The very beginning, the intro,
Oh, we talked about this. Yeah, we talked about the intros.
Oh, no, not the intro. The intro to the first episode.
The first episode, yeah.
Yeah. When the crow literally hits Hinata in the face, and you're like, what? And then you realize, oh, this crow has a lot more to do with this show.
Yeah, there's a lot of imagery.
Hinata's rival, Kageyama, I think is how you say it.
Kageyama, yeah.
Becomes his teammate. I love that.
Yeah, it started off very stereotypical, like,
yeah,
oh, these guys are going to be on opposite teams, and
they're going to come together sometime, I don't know.
Turns out they came together right away. Ooh.
But I just really love that character building with two characters like that, because it's kind of like, not really, but kind of like Avatar.
Oh, we both love Avatar, by the way.
When Aang and Zuko were kind of like against each other for good reason.
Yes.
But they eventually come together.
Yeah, and it's almost like their friendship is so much stronger because they've been through the rivalry aspect of it.
Yeah, I think that's actually why. I think that's what's behind why I love that archetype, because it's like, it's so much more than just friendship. It's like an actual relationship, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have written down on my notes, Tanaka is my favorite character. Kind of scared though because he's a perv. And then I put funny though.
Tanaka is he's hilarious. He's like the big bro that you want in a way. He's very protective of them and
very aggressive, as I've seen in this 4th episode. Yeah. I mean, for good reason though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's very underrated by the fandom, by the way. I just want to throw it out there. The fandom, if you're listening to this and you don't appreciate him, appreciate Tanaka. Appreciate him.
If this is what you're looking for in volleyball shows, like cartoons, anime, this is literally all about volleyball. It is.
There's no outside stuff. This is your
show. Yeah. I don't know what else to tell you, but this is your show.
They're not going to spend a lot of time with, them eating dinner with their family like a lot of other sports animes do. This show is about volleyball, and it just so happens that the volleyball teams are very interesting.
Yeah. Every episode I watch, I'm like, I don't know how they can spark drama from this. Like, I get the team rivals and all that stuff, but every episode I'm blown away because they seem to find a way around it. Like, it's just so jam-packed with drama and different characters. I'm like, whoa.
I think it's the human aspect of it,
Yeah. It's so realistic.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I think that's what they're going for most out of anything in this show is realism, even in a cartoon or anime.
It's fine. It's animation. Who cares what they call it?
But I love when a cartoon can just be realistic, Because it's not necessarily realistic. It's a cartoon. It's not real. But they can make it seem real. Mm-hmm. And the more you make it seem real, the more enticing it is.
I agree.
Has tons of character development, more than Steven Universe does in the
first couple episodes of Haikyuu have way more. Like, there's no character development.
Whoa.
There's no character development in Steven Universe so far. There isn't. I know there's going to be some, but to compare it to the first 4 episodes of Haikyuu, you've already seen, we just watched episode 4 of Haikyuu, and you're seeing Kageyama start to kind of
I got
go
goosebumps. Sounds really cringy. I got goosebumps when it was Kageyama's backstory kind of thing. Mm-hmm. The first backstory thing we get of him that's kind of traumatic, and it was basically he's left behind because he thinks people have to accommodate to his needs on the court. Yeah. Because he is the setter. Yep. But it's he doesn't realize he has to work as a team, and I think that's really cool because Hinata is there for him specifically in the show, I feel like, to become more part of the team.
Yeah, to kind of be that catalyst that teaches him what teamwork is. Because I don't think anyone else on that team could have possibly taught him what he's... I mean, I just don't think it's...
Yeah, I don't think Tsukishima would have done...
They would have beat the crap out of each other, let's be real.
But I think that's so cool. They're so good. I keep using the word so. I'm illiterate. Sorry. They're so good at... Very good. At using other characters and not making it feel like, oh, this character's just here to be a catalyst for this character. It's they all have their own stories and they all come together perfectly.
And I think that's kind of the way real friendships are. We're all our own people, but the relationships that we have with each other is what creates us and makes us better than we were the day before, or worse, depending on what kind of a relationship it is. Toxic.
It's all coming back to realism. Like,
it is,
this show is so realistic, and I was not expecting that.
I think you were expecting, when people hear sports anime, they think
like,
over the top, special powers, fireballs, and you're gonna find out real quick with Haikyuu that it is painfully realistic in how it approaches volleyball and how it approaches life in a way.
You will hurt for some character.
You really will. I'm not joking. You are going to feel tragedy in Haikyuu.
I'm ready, but I'm not.
you can never be ready with this show. You think you know, and then it hits you. That's what makes it so great to me.
Getting into dislikes, I don't really have any real dislikes other than characters like Tsukishima. He's the most crusty person on the court. You can tell. I don't know why the animators didn't put flakes coming off of him every time he jumps for that shot.
Tell me how you really feel.
Jackie, we actually watched an episode before this to kind of get caught up and like remember a few things. Episode 4, there's a scene where I think it's Tanaka. He's like very aggressive, and now then they show a scene of Suki, who's like, his neck is just like perfectly there, and Jackie's like, "Oh, that's so perfect to strangle." And I was like, "Okay, what?" But now I get it.
Now you get it. His character goes through phenomenal development, and I love that we agree on him in the beginning, because I could not stand him, and that's one thing I'm really pumped for you to get around to seeing how great the development is, because I promise you, when we get to the last episode of this podcast, you're gonna feel, you still don't necessarily like him, but you're gonna say, that's a great character. That's one of the best characters that I've seen.
Now, I may not like him as a character, but I can appreciate him in the grand scheme of the show.
Sure.
Because he makes it harder for other people, and it's like everyone has to kind of, do their own thing.
Yeah, he's kind of the
jerk.
The jerk. He's the jerk. Yeah, exactly. He's like sassy. He's just a sassy guy.
Oh, it's just like, why did that need to be said? It didn't. You could have taken a few steps back.
Not that sassy.
Now, I have this on dislikes, but I'm starting to change that around. I put character development makes it feel too fast-paced for me. Now, that's just because I'm not used to shows with this much character development. Mm-hmm. In the first, 2 episodes, I was kind of like, this is a little fast-paced, because it's like, you have this character, and then it's like already going into what they're about, already changing them, and I'm like, well, we're only 2 episodes in, but I'm starting to like that more, as more characters are flooding in.
Yeah, you still haven't even seen the entire team yet.
Yeah.
So,
but I kind of like it because it leaves tons of room for more stuff. Because most shows would be like, oh, we have to spend all this time, like Steven Universe, to build this character. It's like, well, the character's already building.
Yeah.
You can go into so much more,
Yep, I would say that's the thing, is that it feels like it's a lot, but like you said, they're already building. Like it's these are little steps to the true great character development that they go through.
Can't identify with
with the character. I was going to talk to you about this because I agree with you in the beginning. I ended up eventually relating to Kageyama, and because I was very much like him when I was in high school, I was the quote-unquote king of the court. Like, I was in charge of everything, and I wanted other people to listen to me. I'm a natural leader, and I lost friends over that because of my attitude.
Well, and it makes sense because when you're a teenager, you
don't know any better. That's and it's you don't know tact. You don't understand how to connect with people on a deeper level.
And I think for natural born leaders, because I've known you for how many years now, and
it's
like you literally exude leader.
That's what I'm told.
Like, obviously when you're that age, you're not going to know, like Kageyama, he's not going to know how to perfectly blend in,
But in the first 4 episodes, I didn't understand that yet. And so I looked for a character who I could root for. And we were talking about characters when we were watching episode 4, and I mentioned Sugawara, who's the guy with the beauty mark. I don't know if you've had a chance to realize this yet, but his position is setter. And he's the 3rd year. So he's a senior in high school, essentially, more or less. He's going to graduate. This is going to be his last chance to go to nationals.
Okay.
And they've just recruited the best setter they've ever seen. Who do you think is going to be on the bench?
Is it
but
Kageyama?
and so you think about maybe it is, but in the very first couple episodes, Tanaka gets voluntold by Daichi to help. He's going to be on the team. He's not told to help, but he's told that he's going to be on the team, the 3-on-3 team with Kageyama and Shoyo. And Tanaka decides, well, if I'm going to be on the team with these guys, and Tanaka's a nice guy too, that he's going to help them out. Well, this would help them get on the team if they win this match. If you're a third-year setter and someone better than you is coming onto the court and you want to play volleyball, wouldn't you just be okay if they lost?
Yeah.
Well, Sugawara doesn't do that. He takes time out of his own day.
Wow.
Did you notice that? Like, during breaks,
Yeah,
he's helping Shoyo. I always say Shoyo, guys. I'm sorry. He's helping Shoyo learn how to receive because he knows that receiving is his weak point. And then we were just watching episode 4. He stops a match and he steps out and he tells Kageyama how to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Which he needs.
And so you have a character that, to me, the first thing I thought, because my favorite type of character is the best friend. And Sugawara is everyone's best friend.
That's what I'm getting so far.
Yeah, and so for me, and this would be my recommendation to you until you find that character that you relate to. And maybe you'll never relate to a character. I just so happen to relate to Kageyama because of my own personal experiences. Find a character that you want to root for. Even if rooting for that character might not end well for you, it probably won't. Find a character
what are you trying to say about
Sugawara? Yeah, I love his story, and I love that he is someone who believes in the team and that he believes in the people around him, and that's something I think a lot of people could learn. I think for you, maybe you should just follow Tanaka's story until you learn more about the other characters, and you have that character to root for, even if you can't relate to them.
Right.
Because that's kind of what I'm doing with Steven. I don't relate to a single motherfucking character in Steven.
Yeah, I'm complaining about I can't relate, but then you go to Steven Universe, it's like, well, well.
So I think we're both kind of in the same boat.
Yeah.
We don't have, so I would say just look for someone that you can root for, and that was that's the best that I can relate to you. My feelings for Haikyuu in the first couple of episodes is summed up in how I watched Sugawara sacrifice, knowing as someone who used to play sports, knowing that he's sacrificing so that Kageyama could potentially become their starting setter.
Well, from what I can remember, the 4th episode, I'm pretty sure he talked to characters. He had his own scene in previous episodes, but I can't really remember. But from what I've heard so far in the 4th episode from Sugawara?
Sugawara. Just call him Suga.
Suga?
Everyone calls him Suga. Everyone on the show does.
From what I've heard so far from him, he sounds very much like he's the only character I was actually like... He's a good character, you know?
He's a good guy.
Not like good, like, oh, that's a bad character. I mean, like, I guess...
Well, that's the thing I think is...
Moral compass?
Well, I was afraid this was going to happen with Haikyuu because of the depth of the characters. Haikyuu has very realistic characters.
Right.
And these are a bunch of teenage boys. They're all very flawed. And I can tell you right now, a lot of fans latched onto this early idea that you get from Sugawara that he's this angel. And he's not. He is 100% the guy that if you're in a sleepover and you fall asleep first, he drew a penis on your forehead. Like...
Oh my god.
He stuck your hand in warm water and you peed yourself. That's who he is. And you're going to have the experience of seeing that side of him come as the story comes. But... And Daichi's a character who thus far really hasn't made a huge impact. But... he's going to make an impact on you. And I didn't appreciate Daichi the first time I watched it. I had to watch Haikyuu more than once because I only had time to follow Sugawara for the first couple episodes until I got acclimated to everything. And then when I went back and watched it, I was like, I did not appreciate Daichi at all. And so that would be another thing that I could give. If you're watching through Haikyuu the first time with Isaac, with us on this podcast, appreciate Daichi because...
appreciate
Daichi. Because he's a true rock for the team, and
she is my rock.
That's the thing. Like I said with Haikyuu, is that you have these characters that are very flawed, and it, And
honestly, it makes me want to watch it more because I'm like, I can't wait to relate to that character. You know, like who's gonna be my character, and I probably won't ever have that. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't seen enough episodes, but I'm just excited even if I don't, all these characters have really cool archetypes that work well with each other.
They make a good team for sure. But
Do you want to get into similarities?
Yeah, let's talk about similarities and differences. Well, differences very clear. Similarities. Let's talk about similarities. Too many differences.
The first one I put, each episode is a learning experience for at least the main characters.
Yes. Absolutely.
Tons.
Every single episode. Both Steven, who's just now learning kind of like, he's not even really just now learning because he hasn't started yet, but trying to control the power of his gem and experience the world because he's a young guy, versus Shoyo. This is his first time in high school on a real team. And
I don't know if that's just because that's how you keep a story going, or it's just good storytelling.
I think it's just good storytelling. I think it really is, because there's a lot of shows or books or whatever, and the characters
do nothing.
They don't really, it takes
no
so
substance.
long. Yeah, there's no substance. And I think one thing that's cool about both of these main characters is that there is still that substance there, regardless of the type of story that they're telling.
Now, this is something I actually got goosebumps again thinking about. Both characters are willing to overcome anything thrown at them. Pun intended.
That was a pretty good pun.
Literally,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Both of them are just... That is their character. They will overcome everything.
Yep. And that's so inspiring. And there's a quote in Haikyuu, or there's a theme in Haikyuu that we talked about as we were watching episode 4. I was like, pay attention to this theme. It's interesting that both characters are that way, because a huge theme in Haikyuu is that you will not succeed on hard work alone. And you're going to see that in a couple of characters, that they don't succeed because they just don't have the luck or the talent or the opportunity. But regardless of that fact, regardless of the fact that sometimes life throws obstacles at you that you weren't expecting or that you weren't built for, keep pushing. And that's
just
so inspiring. If you're a young kid and you're watching the show, or even as an adult, and you're watching these shows, you're going to think, if they can get through this, so can I.
That is crucial. Not succeeding is crucial to succeed.
It really is.
What's that saying? You have to fail 50 times just to succeed once.
Yeah, well,
or something like that.
I'm not a volleyball. Became a volleyball fan thanks to Haikyuu, but I'm a baseball fan, and the greatest hitters of all time failed 7 out of 10 times.
Yeah,
that's failure
very
is
telling.
Yeah, you will fail more in life than you will succeed, but the ability to get back up is what's important, and both of these characters have that just determination.
It's how you react.
Yeah, absolutely.
And their reactions are just seamless. It's I just gotta keep going.
Yeah, and that's how you build character as an individual. When you fail, how you react to that is you building your character. So, yeah, I agree.
For another similarity, I put realistic in a lot of ways, but...
Well, and I think...
I don't know if Steven Universe is very...
So, Haikyuu is realistic in physics. It's realistic in that this is a group of high school guys, and this is how they would react. Yeah. Steven Universe
socially realistic,
Yeah, I would say that it's really cool that there's this unique family dynamic, which is real. And Connie is a very real character from what I've seen. Yeah, and I would agree with that. Yeah, so Steven Universe has this... for lack of a better term, supernatural element to it.
Fictional, obviously.
Yeah, clearly fictional. Gems aren't real. We're not crazy. We know that. But that doesn't mean just because that element of it isn't real, that the characters can't be real. That what they go through can't be real. That there can't be that sense of danger. So, yeah, I think that there's a sense of realism. And obviously, Haikyuu is grounded 100% in reality.
100%.
Or 99% in reality. And Steven Universe is not. But yeah, the realism is the realistic experiences that they go through in a way, how the characters are flawed. And
now, I can't really say that for the beginning of Steven Universe, but as a show overall, pretty realistic when it comes to how characters handle different things.
That's exciting. I'm looking for... I love characters. We've talked about this millions of times before. I love character-driven stories. That's all I care about with character. That's why I got into Haikyuu. I thought the characters drove the story. So I'm excited to see that in Steven Universe as well.
And my last thing, they both have lit-ass intros.
The intros are so good. We were watching episodes 7 and 8 of Steven Universe before we started this podcast, and I was already singing the theme song. It's so catchy. Both shows have great music in general.
Amazing.
We love these soundtracks. Yeah. We think they're great.
And I'm into a lot of music, but I have specific tastes too. And the fact that I'm able to be wow, I can actually appreciate all these tracks from both shows.
They definitely do a good job of setting the mood and getting you into the show and heightening what is already beautiful looking animation for both shows to a whole nother level.
That's another thing I want to talk about. Something I feel like Haikyuu does better than Steven Universe is the overall vibe you get.
We were talking about this.
I'm not stressed until they start playing. They literally they take you on a journey
Yeah.
in the real world through a fictional world. It's kind of like crazy to think about, because it's like 1 second you'll just be relaxed, like, okay, everyone's getting ready to play, and then you're like hyped up and they're in a game, or a new character shows up and he's like, you guys are all dumbasses.
Nice Tsukishima impression. As you adjust your glasses. He's got a tragic backstory too.
I could imagine.
Yeah.
Any character that's
that much
just
of an asshole.
tormenting everyone.
You're a bully for a reason, right?
Yeah, real world and fictional.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just excited for us to continue this journey.
I am so excited.
I honestly hope if you're listening to this podcast that you are following along. If you've already seen Steven Universe, watch it with me. If you've already seen Haikyuu, watch it with Isaac. If it's your first time watching them, watch them with us. Talk to us about what you think. Let us know if you...
Give us feedback.
Yeah,
we want to hear from you guys, what you guys like about the show, what you don't like. What's your favorite episode? Like, we'd love to hear all that stuff.
Absolutely. And like I said, hopefully some giveaways. We've talked about live streams. I don't know how that's going to work.
I don't know either, but I'm just going to say they're going to be pretty lit.
They're going to be lit. And I'm just really excited to continue to share with you guys our journey into what otherwise, if we would have done this on our own individually, we never would have started these journeys. So yeah.
True.
So join us with them. Thank you guys so much for listening to the first episode of Beach City Crows. And again, watching Steven Universe for the first time, my name is Jackie.
And watching Haikyuu for the first time, my name is Isaac.
See you guys in the next episode.
Bye!
Hey guys, it's Jackie.
And Isaac.
From Nonessential Media.
We just want to thank you guys so much for listening, and if you'd like, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel or our Patreon.
And we want to hear from you guys. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you're watching along with us and what your thoughts are.
You can find us on Twitter at NonEssentialM.
We're on Facebook as Nonessential Media.
We're also on Instagram at Nonessential Media.
Check out our website, nonessentialmedia.com.
So check us out.
Thanks again for listening. We truly appreciate every single one of you.
See you guys next Saturday for a new episode of Beach City Crows. Bye! Skibbly babbly bop.